Going to jump into the mailbag for people that aren't aware, like Trevor. We have a mailbag, Trev. It's
Okay.
sitting just over to my right here. It's overflowing. Like we
Appreciate.
can pick one or two every week. There's just a lot. So I have picked one, and we're going to jump into the mailbag where the questions are real, but the names and locations are not. This week, Hector from Tucson writes, and Trev, he's written in before too. He's a bit of a
Okay.
fan.
It's a mailbag
Hey
of
guys,
Hector Tucson's.
it's mainly yeah, the overflowing bag. It's mainly from Hector. Yes. Hey guys, I've been asked to create an advertising strategy for my company. I don't know what kind of company is Hector, but let's continue. I know about Facebook and Google ads, but I want to look beyond the big two. What are some digital advertising channels that you've worked with beyond Facebook and Google? So, Hector, we could just start listing things, but I don't think that's very prudent. So, I want to start with Trevor. Trevor, what would you say to Hector's question?
That's tough to just come up with an immediate response to that without knowing more information. A lot of what we look at first would be in choosing other platforms outside of Google or Meta, Facebook and what have you, would be, where is your audience on? Like, where do they go to get their information, and what type of information they're looking for? Are they problem solving? Are you having opportunities to influence them? To questions like, is it B2C, business to consumer, or is it business to business? So I think that would have a big impact on what platforms we would recommend in that case. So
Yeah. And again,
that's where I
you
start.
need to have your context and you need to have your goals and your audiences and before you can just pick things, right?
Yeah, so you don't, I mean, choosing platforms just for the sake of choosing platforms to try. I mean, it is nice to test, and actually, as long as you have your analytics and your conversion metrics set up, you can actually start to analyze what is or is not working, to a certain degree. But it's still nice to narrow down based on where your audience is and the stage they're at, and even like how it works with your other advertising platforms. So the ones
Yep.
that you choose to complements or supplements what you're doing already, or outside of these, is it fitting the right role in the whole advertising strategy?
Dope. Agreed. And Duncan is somebody that leads our advertising team. What are some actual channels that we've used maybe beyond that are interesting or unique or maybe worth at least a look once you've answered the questions that Trevor's outlined?
Well, look, Google and Facebook are kind of like the two kings of advertising for a reason. They kind of offer a decent solution to pretty much any marketing challenge you have, whether it's B2B, B2C. If you're trying to sell products, if you want awareness, if you want to sell events or services, you can kind of do it on. The reason why those are so big is because they can kind of do it all. When you start looking at some of the other mediums that are out there, generally they're better for certain types of promotions more so than others. And that's kind of what you have to understand. So depending on what your business is and what you're promoting, there likely are different mediums that fit better for what you're trying to achieve. So like B2B, business to business, LinkedIn still does a pretty good job of allowing you to target people in different ways, like what their roles are, what companies they work for, what industries they're in, what kind of skills they have. So like that makes a lot of sense for a lot of different clients that we work with. If you're working in e-commerce and you have a product and an e-commerce website, things like Pinterest are great. TikTok is great, especially if you can kind of show either the making of the product or people interacting with the product or how it's used or what problem it solves. Um, that kind of short form content works really well on those platforms. YouTube as well, I guess, for that as well. If you start thinking about other kind of events, Reddit can actually do quite well for you to get a bit of exposure, especially with crowds that I'd say like consuming a lot of information, generally a bit more like kind of affluent. If you're trying to hit younger demographics, then there's things like Snapchat. TikTok is also another one for younger demographics. So it's really kind of all over the place. Then you have some things like programmatic that kind of dodge in between all of those. You have Spotify radio ads if you want to be more on the awareness side. So like there's way too many options out there to kind of cover them all. But what I would kind of say is really understand what your goals are. And as Trevor alluded to, understand who your audience is, and then find a medium that kind of suits that bill, would be my suggestion.
Thank you, Hector, for your question. Lots for Hector to think about. Hector can weigh his many options before he decides on where he wants to go next.